Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how I use the Vallejo chipping medium to do the chipping effects on this particular tank, and also I used a few other techniques like with the sponge, with the brush. This is the end result. So I'll go through these techniques in this video and I hope you like it. So this is where I left off in the previous video, in the masking video that you can find on my channel. The link is above up there. After this, I use the Vallejo chipping medium thinned with airbrush thinner from Vallejo. So I use a 50-50 ratio of both in equal parts, and I spray the exposed areas. It is very important to note here that this has been covered with satin varnish. I've used 2 coats of satin varnish, allowed it to cure for a couple of days before I get on to the chipping process. This is really important, otherwise we risk damaging the paint we have already done. So I spray the entire model with this 50-50 mixture and I allow it to dry for around 30 minutes. I have used around 2 coats of this mixture. The heavier mixture you use, more of the chipping fluid if you use, you would get bigger chips. And if you use a thinner, more thinned chipping medium and thinner mixture, then you would get less smaller chips. This is theoretically, so I used a 50-50 mixture like I told you, and let's see how it looks like. So after doing this chipping, spraying of the chipping medium, I leave it to dry for around 30 minutes to 1 hour, and then I start with the next step, which is painting the top color. My idea is to chip away this top warm yellow color to reveal the green paint below it. So I spray a thinned mixture of this color, of this warm yellow color, not too diluted, but let's say around 20 to 80% color, or 30% thinner or water with 70% of color. Another important factor that needs to be considered here is, I think, the coat of each color has to be applied very thinly. So it's better to apply 2 or 3 thin coats rather than one thick and heavy coat. The reason, because if you are thinning it down with water or with some other substance similar to that, on the vertical sides or where the paint pools, this water activates the thinning medium below the color. So it already starts to dissolve and already starts to form some cracks. This is what I noticed when I used a really thick coat with a lot of water mixed in it. So it was already, the top paint was already starting to crack. So like I said, it's, I think, really important that we do thin coats, maybe 2 or 3, depends, and then try to chip this away with water. I also tried to do a bit of color modulation for the second coat of color. So I used the warm yellow color mixed with a bit of white to create a lighter appearance. And with a piece of cardboard, I highlighted certain panels. I picked them out thinking that the light will be falling in this particular direction. And this color modulation actually matches with the green tone underneath. So once we remove this masking, we would be able to find a similar color modulation beneath the surface. So I finally get to peel off the marked part and reveal the paintwork underneath. This is probably the most satisfying step of the build, I would say. And as you can see, I've tried to match the color modulation for both the colors. So coming back to the chipping, I will slowly chip away the yellow color to reveal the green tone underneath. From what I have seen in some of the pictures is that this yellow color has been painted later on. So many of the tanks have this yellow color chipped off to reveal the color underneath. So I start by using a thin brush with some water and covering the yellow areas to activate the chipping medium underneath. And then with a toothpick or a similar object, blunt, not too sharp, a similar object, I slowly try to draw some scratches. And as you can see, there are fine lines in which the paint have come off. And this toothpick technique I mainly use to do small scratches and allows us to have more control over the dimension of the scratches or peeling of paint that we are drawing. I do a similar process also with the turret. It is very necessary to be careful in these steps, especially while rubbing with a toothpick, is that you do not rub very hard so as to remove all the paint underneath. Even if you have put a varnish or any other similar thing, if you are using a sharp object and really scratch it, the entire paint, varnish, and all the layers are going to come off and reveal the actual plastic underneath. So this process needs to be gentle. Also, as you can see that since I have used a 50-50 mixture with the thinner and the chipping medium, the chips are not particularly large and they are also not very small. So with a slight movement of the toothpick, I am able to remove some material, but it's not that the paint keeps peeling off. So I think this is a sweet spot of using 50% thinner and 50% chipping medium. Also, you can, like you just see, I tried using a rough brush. It gives a different effect of chipping. Usually the protruding parts, the edges, etc., they get removed when you use a rough brush. For the second technique, I use the sponge. It's a small piece of sponge found in any kitchen, I think. And I have made a very diluted mixture of a lighter tone of the green color that I have painted. So I mixed a lot of whites in it so as to give the impression of an old layer of color. And in this step also, I think is important to note that we should never overload the sponge. It should not be dripping. So I put it in the color, I allow it to soak for a second or two, dab it on a tissue, and then put it on the model. And this gives a very fine effect of chips. Finally, using the thinnest brush that I have, I picked up some gray color and I started touching it only in specific areas which has eroded the most, let's say. So you can use a gray color to represent steel or some brighter color to represent aluminium, depending on which part it is done on, or some rusty color to reveal a rustier tone underneath. Depends. Since this is a newer tank, I simply used the steel color. The goal while using the brush to do this part of chipping is to have the gray color limited to the boundaries set in between the lighter tone of colors that we just made in the previous step. So the first layer chips off to reveal a older color layer, and this older color layer chips off to reveal the steel underneath. This is the pattern that I have tried to follow. And the steel chips are mainly in parts which get used a lot. like the front of the tank, which is always rubbing against trees, muds, rocks, or the wheels, or the side edges, the side skirts, etc. So this brings us to the end of this video. I hope you liked it. These are the final results of the chipping that we did in this video. And if you like the video, please leave a like or a comment, or please share. And to see more such videos, or to see the full build of this tank or many other models, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching.